Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Brent Darnell, author of The Tough Guy Survival Kit. Brent, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Paul. It's great to be here.
You ready to get started?
I am. Let's do it.
All right. Question number one. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
Well, I'd say go for it and definitely finish writing your book, and then find a way to get it published. And there's several ways out there to get published. It's about kind of wading through all those pieces of information and finding the best way to do it, or getting someone to help you with it. Of course, that's the other option. And for the people who are self-publishing their books, it can be a pretty tedious process. So I would say get some information and get some people to help you with that process, because it is tedious and it is difficult. And when you get into design and all those details of publishing, it's a bear, and it's good to have some good advice from someone. But the first step is to get your book written, and just put yourself away in a room and get it written and get it done.
Well, that's going to transition nicely into our next question, and that is, what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
Oh, there's just so many ways to do it. And, even from traditional publishing, I almost went the traditional publishing route, and I had a publisher interested, but they wanted to pay me 5% of all the sales. And I said, wow, that's like, you get 95%. What do I get for that 95%? And they said, well, you get nothing, basically. We're going to do a run of books and put it in some stores. And then I thought to myself, when's the last time anybody bought a book in a bookstore? So that didn't seem like a very good deal to me. So I started looking at alternatives, and you got to pick your way through like I said, all the information and all the mess, but there's several ways to do it. And getting somebody who's been through that process before and knows how to do it is really vital. It'll save you so much time and energy and mistakes. So the hardest part is figuring out exactly step by step how to do it. And if you've got, if you can find a way to learn some of those just concrete steps of, how do you get it designed and how do you get it up on Amazon and other sites? I mean, there's ways to do that. And it's about figuring out that way.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. One of the main things you get when you work with a publisher is acceleration and a coach, because it speeds up the process. And the nice thing is, you have a system, because when you're starting this yourself, there's so many mistakes. There's so many little things that you can do that can really derail your launch. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Oh, I agree. And I've made all of those mistakes.
Same here. I call it my very first book launch. So 13 books later, we figured it out. But, it's definitely a process with that. Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well.
Well, marketing's a tough nut to crack. It's just so difficult because there's so much noise out there. I like to go to my people that already sort of follow me as a consultant or as a friend or family, and start there and get them to actually read the book and maybe put some write me some reviews that I can use in the marketing. And then I use social media, Facebook posts and excerpts and links to the book, and also beforehand getting a PDF version ahead of time to some really key people, and get them to read it and give me feedback and review on that. And then you can use that on the cover and, to promote the book as well. And if it's a niche book, a niche market, or a consultant kind of book, you find those people that are going to make those people say, wow, they thought that was a good book. I need to buy that book.
Well, and you talk about one of the strategies in regards to getting to actually utilizing editorial reviews, and those reviews, those ones that you can put in the front of your book that you can also add into your description, because if you can get those reviews early enough, that's one of the nice things, is you can actually add those into your books. It's a great strategy.
Right.
Well, let's talk about your favorite book. So what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
Wow. Well, I This is a really hard question because I'm such an avid reader. I've read thousands of books by this point in my life. And there are two books that I read every morning, most every morning. And that's a book of Chinese wisdom called the I Ching and the Bible. And they've taught me many things, lots of things about life and about, how to deal with difficult situations. And I'd have to say those are my two favorites. But my wife always kids me. I can't do a favorite anything. Like I'd have to do my favorite fiction book, my favorite nonfiction book, my favorite mystery, my favorite biography, my favorite historical novel, my favorite memoir. I'd have to just do that whole list.
Well, in regards to those two favorites, what do you feel is the number one thing that you learned from them?
I would say it's that life is always changing, and that you can either embrace the change and enjoy the ride, or you can fight the change and be totally wiped out at the end of every day.
Yeah, I agree. One of the biggest lessons I learned when I was a teacher is the biggest consistent that you have in life is change, and you can either embrace it or you can fight it, and it's much better to embrace it.
Yes.
And let's talk about your favorite quote for our final question. What is your favorite quote and why?
Okay, this is mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself makes you fearless. And that's by Lao Tzu. And I believe that's so true. I think that all of the conflicts we have are internal conflicts. I think that by mastering yourself and understanding who you are and knowing your strengths and weaknesses allows you to navigate this sometimes very difficult life in a very elegant, nice way. And also, I teach emotional intelligence to the construction industry, and we have this whole year-long program, and it's a big, long journey, and that's where we usually start is we're going to teach you self-mastery during this year. So that's my quote.
I'm like that you mentioned Lao Tzu, too. One of my favorite quotes from him is the journey of 1,000 steps begins with the first ones, to paraphrase. So
yes.
Definitely a great choice. Well, Brent, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
Probably be BrentDarnell.com. It's Brent, B-R-E-N-T, Darnell, D-A-R-N-E-L-L, all one word, .com. And that's my website, and that's my point of contact for just about everything.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for being a guest on the show, Brent, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how to get your book published with a proven system that works, grab a free copy of my book at getpublishedpodcast.com.